What is up, everybody? My name is Sarah with Sirens Books, and today we're doing an August reading wrap-up. For me, September was absolutely chaotic. I didn't have time to film this earlier, unfortunately, so I'm just getting caught up, but I figure better late than never. So let's just jump into it. In the month of August, I actually ended up reading 13 books, and that's a mix between all the different platforms. So that's ebooks, audiobooks, as well as physical books. And of those books, I rated 2 of them 5 stars, and 1 of them got a 2-star rating. And then everything else was a 3 or 4 stars. So it was okay, or I liked it. But I'll start off with the books that I absolutely love this month before we get into all the other books that I read. So the 2 books that I rated 5 stars were going to be Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas and As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zoulfa Katouh. I did look up how to say that. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I'll practice it a couple more times for sure. But those 2 books were my 5-star reads for August. Empire of Storms I did as a tandem read with Tower of Dawn as a part of my rereads for Throne of Glass that we're focusing on in the upcoming release of Crescent City 3, House of Flame and Shadow. I haven't reread these books since 2018 time period, so I just figured it was a time for a refresh, considering there's a lot of hints being dropped that there might be a little bit of a world crossover coming. Empire of Storms is one of my favorite books in the series. I would highly recommend the series as a whole. It's a nice YA, chosen one kind of fantasy book. But I also feel like Sarah J. Maas is pretty popular, so everybody's heard about it, so I won't dig too much in the details. On the other side of the coin, also a YA book, is As Long as the Lemon Tree Grows. And let me tell you, this book is absolutely 100% phenomenal. One of the best books that I've probably read all year. As Long as the Lemon Tree Grows is an absolutely gut-wrenching story that follows Salama, who is a pharmacy student leading up to the Syrian civil war. It's a story about survival and family and grief, love, hope. It's just absolutely phenomenal. I loved every single piece of this. The pacing is fantastic. The story itself is just so rich. The characters are phenomenal. I cannot recommend this book enough. It is an easy 5 out of 5 stars. I would say you should probably check trigger warnings because there are some pretty graphic depictions in the story. One of the things that's so poignant about this book is how well balanced it is, because while it is completely heartbreaking, it also is somehow uplifting. And that carries through from beginning to end, and it really kind of keeps you engaged throughout, like all the way up until the epilogue. You're on the edge of your seat, just like not really knowing what's going to happen. This book absolutely blew me away. I would highly recommend it to absolutely everybody. I think everybody should read this book. It is phenomenal. So those were my 5-star reads for the month of August. The book that got the lowest rating of the month was Black Ties and White Lies by Kat Singleton. This is a workplace, forced proximity, enemies to lovers book, and I really thought that since it had checked all of the tropes that I usually just fall head over heels for, that I was going to like this one too. The problem was that I really, really disliked the characters. At no point did I find myself rooting for them as a couple. The more that I ended up reading, the less that I liked them, to the point that it actually put me into a reading slump because I couldn't get past my dislike of the characters. So when they finally got together in the end and I had actually finished the book, I was more relieved than happy. So for me, I can't recommend this book because I really didn't like it, but I understand that there's a lot of other people that might like these tropes and might find the characters more palatable. But for me, it was a no. So the other books that I ended up reading this month that were all between 3 and 4 stars. I'll start with the rereads that I did. I'll start with the rereads I did. So as a part of Crescent City 3 coming out in January, I've started to reread ACOTAR And I'm doing the Throne of Glass reread with my book bestie, Veronica, and you might have seen our other videos. Akatar I've actually read twice already, like actually read the book twice. So this time I decided to do a little bit different, and I'm actually doing the graphic audiobooks of the series. So this month I finished The Court of Mist and Fury graphic audio. I gave the graphic audio 4 out of 5 stars. It was fun. I think I probably prefer reading the book just because like that's how I recognize the characters in my mind. But still very enjoyable for all my audiobook girlies. The graphic audio is absolutely exceptional for this series. The other reread that I had for the month was Tower of Dawn. I did the tandem read for Empire of Storms with Tower of Dawn, which I do highly recommend for anybody who's getting into the series. Tower of Dawn was good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but there's a lot of repeated themes from earlier books in the series, so it wasn't as enjoyable because there was again like a lot of like kind of repeated narrative. I did love all the new characters. The Kagan and his family were some of my favorites. Nezrin, learning to ride the Rooks and everything, that was like a really fun part. And then of course I love Irene. She was one of the best new characters that we get introduced to in this series. 2 other books that I read this month that I gave 3.5 stars to on Storygraph, but gave 4 stars to on Goodreads, since Goodreads doesn't do the half stars, was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo and Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Both of these are kind of in that dark academia genre where there's also like a little bit of element of a magical realism. A Deadly Education follows Elle, who is enrolled in a magical school, kind of like Hogwarts vibes, and that like they're witches and wizards kind of learning their power, but it also gives like this element, if you're familiar with Fourth Wing, where like the school is actively trying to kill you because there's all these demons coming in, so you're not safe in the school. I really liked that element. I thought it kind of added a sense of urgency, and the dynamic between her and her love interest was a lot of fun. I would recommend this. Like I gave it 3.5 stars because it was somewhere between it was okay and I also liked it, and I'll end up continuing on with the series because I'm interested in seeing where it goes. The Ninth House. I gave this 3.5 stars. This was a little bit closer to just being okay for me. I didn't really like the pacing in the story, but I did like the premise. I just find that sometimes Leigh Bardugo's writing is it has a slower pace to it, so I have a harder time like getting into the story, getting into the characters. I did enjoy it, but it takes me a little bit longer to get through some of her novels. Another book that I read in the month of August that I wish I had liked more, that I thought I was going to like more, but ended up just being kind of like a 3.5 star read for me, was A Boy and His Dog at the End of the World. The pacing on this was just not there. I liked the premise of the book, which is basically it's dystopian, end of the world kind of scenario. This boy is living on an island with his family, and a stranger kind of comes up to trade with them, knocks the entire family out, and then steals their dog. So this boy goes on a quest to get his dog back, which 100% I can totally vibe with. Like, I understand that because it's something that I would do too. But then it's just from there, it takes a long time for the story to actually pick up any momentum, and nothing like particularly interesting happens until about the last 20% of the book. So the pacing on this wasn't great. It has a little bit of like a Last of Us vibe, especially in like one particular part, but I had really high hopes for this book, and I was just expecting a little bit more. Another book that I actually really enjoyed this month, that's in the same kind of sci-fi realm, is The Midnight Library. And trigger warnings for suicide on this book, but I really love the premise of this book, and then how it kind of went through each of the cycles of how Nora ends up reliving different paths that she didn't take in her life. And the premise is like between life and death, So like that space between like you still being alive and dying, there's a library, and within that library, within that library you can basically like pick up a book and read it, but this is like a different version of your life, and you can choose to live that life and live it fully, or you can choose to pass on. And I really love that premise. I thought the storyline was really well done. The ending was really satisfying too. So this was a book I'd recommend. 4 out of 5 stars. Pretty good. A couple other books that I read this month. These are all in the romance genre. So I read Things We Hide from the Light and Planes, Trains, and All the Feels. Things We Hide from the Light I primarily read because I knew Things We Left Behind was coming out in September, so I wanted to get that out of the way in August so that I could go ahead and jump directly into Things We Left Behind, which is Lucian and Sloane's story, which is one of the ones that I was really looking forward to because it's enemies to lovers. Things We Hide from the Light is actually a friends to lovers story, so I wasn't as like gung-ho about reading it, but it was actually ended up being really sweet. It follows Nash after he got shot, and things We Left Behind. It kind of follows his coping with the PTSD from having been shot, and Lena kind of helping him through that. So it's a sweet story. Not my favorite in the series, but definitely still pretty cute. Planes, Trains, and All the Feels is like a forced proximity, strangers to friends to lovers. Essentially, Cassidy and Luke are on the same flight that ends up having to make an emergency landing, and then she's in a rush to get to her sister's wedding. He's afraid of flying. He ends up getting like the last rental car to drive the rest of the way, and then just kind of hijinks ensue. It's like they can't make it across country in the car, and then they get on the train, and the train fails. It's a whole thing. It's cute. It's a little bit more like Hallmark Channel kind of romance. And then the last 2 books that I read in August that are kind of on the same vibe is I read another Ice Planet Barbarians, and this one was the Barbarian Taming. This is the 8th book in the series, I believe. And this one I ended up reading just as like kind of a palate cleanser after I had read Black Ties and White Lies and wasn't really feeling it after I'd finished The Ninth House and was kind of just getting into a book slump. I read that as a quick read to kind of get me out of the book slump, which is what Ice Planet Barbarians does. It's a good time. It was fun. I like this story in particular because there was a new element added to it. Basically, the cave that everybody was living in had a collapse. So they're off trying to find a new place to live on this ice planet. So that was a lot of fun, and I like the characters in this one. The other book that I read that I'm going to start recommending to everybody is in the same vein as Ice Planet Barbarians, and it's called Choosing Theo, and it's the first book in the, and I'm going to mispronounce this, the Clickanian series. Again, same premise in that this woman is kind of stolen from her planet and then dropped on another planet that has like a breeding issue. And she gets a chance to choose a husband. She can't be returned to Earth for like varying reasons, but she ends up choosing a husband who is Theo, and things take off from there. It's a really cute story. I'm actually kind of loving the series. I'm going to finish it out. This was recommended to me by a couple different people, and they both said that they loved it. So I'm really enjoying the series. I've finished the 2nd book in September, and I'm going to continue reading as we go. It's a little bit longer than Ice Planet Barbarians, but still really cute. So I didn't mention this, Ice Planet Barbarians. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and then Choosing Theo I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so those are all the books that I ended up reading in August. Thank you for watching through to the end. If you made it this far in the video, leave an alien in the comments, and please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.